now. So number one, so get back to what you can say in court. Number one, I do not consent to these proceedings. Number two, your offer is not accepted. Number three, I do not consent to being surety for these proceedings. And which means I don't consent to being the vessel that is the surety for this fictitious entity that you're trying to press a claim against. And number four, I demand that the bond be immediately brought forward so I can see who will indemnify me if I am damaged. So you want somebody to take responsibility for this, what they're pressing against you. And odds are that the judge is going to just dismiss the case.
There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another show. I have a special guest today. His name is Ronald Russell Farnham, and he knows a lot about the law, and we've been talking about stuff like that recently. So I'm very excited to have somebody who's been looking at this a lot and actually wrote a book about it. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Ronald Russell Farnham. How you doing, Ron?
All right, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday to you too. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about was your book. You have a book called Solutions, and I've been talking recently because I'm also on another podcast where I talk to two comedians, and the premise of that is basically I come to them with some kind of truth or conspiracy, or they'll ask me questions about it. And then I bring in things. So this is something that I just started to introduce to them, and I wanted to get more knowledge about it. So tell me about your book.
Well, the book is called The Solution, an instruction manual for sovereignty and freedom. And after doing a lot of research, and I even bought some courses on sovereignty and how to file the paperwork, I decided to put all the steps together in a book and sell it really cheap so that it would solve and I called it The Solution, so that it would solve the problem of this slavery that we are under by the US of A corporation that's posing as a government out there in Washington, the District of Columbia. And so it's the step-by-step process to remove yourself from the jurisdiction of the state, take control of your birth certificate amount and account, have the IRS discharge all of your debt, and then you get yourself even a 98 EIN number so you can start making purchases. You can still live in the United States somewhere, and but you become a sovereign. You remove yourself from the jurisdiction of the state so they can't oppress you any longer, and so that you're not a physical and financial and mental slave to this psycho system that they have going on.
Yeah, that sounds like I mean, I haven't read the book yet. I have to check it out. It's something I just came across. But for people who aren't really familiar with what we're talking about, is basically the only law that human beings are subject to is really kind of, it's like God's law, but it comes down to really, if you look at maybe like the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, we have these rights, and a lot of these laws, and most of these laws, in fact, don't really pertain to us as a human, as a man, or as a woman. They pertain to us as a corporate entity of this fictional thing that's the United States government. So without anybody having to get too far into that, that's kind of, I just wanted to lay it out a little bit. What's really interesting to me, I was looking into, is the whole thing with the Treasury, and how through our birth certificate, we're kind of bonded with that. And we have, I guess we have access to money or access to funds. You want to explain that a little bit?
Well, when you're born, the doctor acts as a servant of the US of A corporation and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So when you're born, a certificate of live birth is created, and this is a bond, and it's signed by the doctor, and that finalizes it, that makes it a bond, and then that doctor mails it to the Vital Statistics Office. The Vital Statistics Office of the state or county where you're born in the state. And states are really countries, by the way. The United States is a series of countries. So you, in your country, your state, your vital statistics office has this bond, and they make a copy of it. And they send that copy to you, and they also send a copy to Washington, D.C., to their Human Resources Department. And they take a copy in Washington, D.C., and send it off to the International Monetary Fund. And the International Monetary Fund uses it as proof to loan credit to the United States of America Corporation. Because what happens is the United States of America Corporation is bankrupt, and they need some type of a surety, like your physical vessel, to be a surety or the thing against which they can borrow money from the International Monetary Fund. So your vessel is just looked like it as this thing that they use to secure credit. So in my process, in my book, I teach you how to send your birth certificate back to the U.S. Treasury down in Puerto Rico for credit and deposit, so that you send all your money back, your credit back to the Treasury. Now you've got full credit. You become a secure creditor. And you have the credit instead of the US of A Corporation or the International Monetary Fund leveraging your credit without your consent. And then once you do that, you can send all of your bills, your debt, to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, where they will revenue your debits over to the credit sign and discharge your debt. So the whole birth certificate and monetary system really is a slave system. The monetary system that we live under now, and have for a long time, since 1933, when they took gold and silver off the market, they replaced it with nothing. Just our faith that they put in these fiat currency notes that the Federal Reserve started printing off. The Federal Reserve is just a private company. Working for the US of A Corporation to enslave us in this dollar bill talisman with a spell cast into it that has just made our entire life across Earth insane, because all of the countries across Earth are doing this. And so it's the International Monetary Fund, these corporations posing as governments that have harnessed our credit, our vessel, and they're using it in these contracts, one-sided, unconscionable contracts that we don't even know about. And so that's how we're slaves there. That's how this money system and credit and debit system work.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you look into it, because you said the word vessel, which really reminds me of battery, which reminds me of like the Matrix, because in that, all the humans were technically batteries because they were living and, off of their energy. But if you look at it in an allegorical sense, you could see how maybe they're making reference to this, or just really any slave system really is the people in it, the slaves, they are the vessels, they're the batteries for it. One other thing I've heard about this is you can also not have insurance. Like, you don't have to carry any kind of insurance, and you can use this to back up. So if something happens to you for some reason and you're liable, you can also access this money. Have you heard that also?
Well, honestly, just like how the Federal Reserve can print off a promissory note, you have the right to print off a promissory note. The dollar bills are just a promise to pay. And so once your promissory note, let's say you get into an accident and someone sues you and they want some money from you. Well, there is no money, but they want something. You can write a promissory note to them for deposit to their bank, so that the bank must accept it, deposit it, put it on their stack of bonds that they have at the bank that they're going to bring to the monthly, send off monthly to the bond market. And then they type in the amount face value of that bond that you've written. So we have a couple of different capacities that we work in. We can be working in. We are living souls, right? We are also we're also corporations. So you were talking about law at the beginning. The number one highest form of law is natural law. That's the law of the universe, or this reality that we live in, and your only authority is either your parents that created you, or the creator that created reality, whatever creative, whatever this is that we're living in. So you don't really have to answer to lower authority type of law, like maritime admiralty jurisdiction, statutes and codes, and federal laws. Especially if you're, one of the things that you don't want to call yourself is a citizen. What I do is I call myself a living soul. I don't think that I'm a human being that has a soul. I think I'm actually a living soul with a gigantic aura around me and a chakra system. I'm a living soul that my apparently physical brain is transcribing all of this energy as this apparently physical experience. And we're actually in the heaven or hell that we make it. We are ghosts already to other vibrations and dimensions. So I'm a living soul on vacation from, I guess, the kingdom of heaven, or wherever my soul is attached to through my chakra system, with the aurora borealis up at the North Pole, magnetic north, Mount Meru, where we're all attached. That's what that aurora borealis is. And a lot of truths are being hidden from us. So as a living soul, under natural law, I don't have to answer to anybody, but I am responsible. You have to be responsible. If you do harm under common law to somebody else, then you have to be a responsible living soul. If I kill somebody or I damage somebody physically, then you got to be responsible. And under maritime jurisdiction, I am the one who negotiates for my vessel. And to do that, you have to stay in honor, because there's honor and dishonor. There's offer, acceptance, and conditional acceptance. So if you learn how to stay in honor by accepting or conditionally accepting all offers from these maniacs who are throwing offers at you, like when the cop pulls up behind you and throws on his lights, he's making an offer. And if you pull over, you've accepted his offer that he's got control over you. Now he's behind you. When he walks up to your window and he starts asking questions, he wants to control the situation. Like, do you know how fast you were driving? Oh, I wasn't driving. I'm not a driver or an operator of a vehicle. Don't want, have, or need a license, driver license. And if you want me to answer questions, I'll answer your questions for $500 per question, cash up front. And if you want my name, it's $10,000. It's secured, cash up front. Now you're conditionally accepting his offers. He's got to meet your conditional acceptance, walk away if he doesn't, or break the law by busting your window and yanking you out of your car. So a lot of people don't understand what honor is. And that's basically, and this is really important, to accept or conditionally accept all offers. That's how you stay in honor.
All right, I love that you brought that up, because I wanted to get into offers and actually what they were, because it seems that most of the laws and most of everything, and even if you bring it into current events, everything that's really going on is an offer. I mean, I hear so many people say to me, I had to wear a mask. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I haven't worn one. Or I'll say, no, I'm sorry, I've worn one twice. And both times I was cleaning and it was a really dusty room. So I wore a dust mask for its proper use. But so things like this, the tests, even the quarantines, all these are just offers for people. Now, you want to explain a little bit about that maybe, and kind of where that comes from?
Well, it is about your vessel. I mean, the maritime jurisdiction deals with us as vessels. And when you enter a courtroom, which is really just an administration center set up to look like a courtroom, you're in their vessel. And when you get charged with trespassing, you're actually charged with trespassing in their vessel, not at the residence or whatever, or the store or something like that. So I guess I'm restating the same thing, is that especially, and I guess we can talk about it as far as today's day and age now with this whole fake pandemic, this mask wearing stuff, the social distancing. This is all the US of A Corporation and FEMA and the International Monetary Fund prepping to sell, buy Bill Gates vaccines that they're going to try and force into us under a state of emergency. The US of A Corporation operates under the premise that their number one priority is to maintain public safety. And they can declare a national emergency under the guise of public safety and try and force people to get vaccinated and give them that offer. It's like, here you go. We're offering you this vaccine for public safety, and you're going to have to take it, and you have to wear a mask. If I ever wear a mask, I drape it over my ears and I wear it on my chin, because now the mask is on. If someone tries to tell me to cover up my mouth and nose, I'm going to tell them no, because I have a condition which is called breathing. And if I can't breathe and I'm getting carbon dioxide toxicity, there's no way I'm doing that. So I'm wearing your mask that you want me to, but I'm not covering my nose and mouth with it. That's what I've been doing, and no one has said anything to me. And I get aggressive when people try and tell me what to do. I'll be like, look, dude, I'm not covering my mouth and nose. And we have to start using emotion to protect ourselves. So this offer of the vaccine that might be coming and this offer of wearing the mask, you can conditionally accept that and say, sure, I'm wearing your mask. Boom, that's my condition. It's over my chin. I'm wearing it. Well, or you might have to get the vaccine. Well, you have to take the vaccine. Okay, I will take the vaccine on the condition that you tell me the ingredients in the vaccine, the side effects of this vaccine, and how much money you're going to pay me up front to take the vaccine, and the settlement that you're going to give me when this vaccine starts causing harm to my vessel. Sure, I'll take your vaccine on these conditions. Now you're conditionally accepting it from these doctors who have to take the Hippocratic Oath. If there's certain things like, there's a question I've read that you can ask them, which in a way says, is there baby human DNA in this vaccine? And they have to tell you the truth. And if there is, you say, well, I'm not taking that because I'm not taking it because those ingredients are in it. So thanks for your offer. Have a good day. And you can leave. Now, what the government's going to try and do, or the so-called government means control mind. They're going to make it so difficult to operate in society without a vaccine that, you might have to wind up having friends who have already taken the vaccine go shopping for you. Or we'll be doing everything online, purchasing things online. You won't be able to leave your house, or you might not even be able to have a bank account without having taken the vaccine. So they're going to kind of force the issue to where, fine, you cannot accept the vaccine, but this is how you're going to have to live by not accepting it. You're not going to be able to go shopping. You're not going to be able to do any commerce. You're not going to be able to leave your house. You're not going to be able to get a driver license, maybe, which people think they need a driver license to, travel in their automobile. And all these words of art are under legal English that people aren't really learning in school or anywhere. You got slang English, formal English, and legal English. Legal English is what the state uses against you to trick you and siphon funds off of you and make you accept offers that you don't even know that you're accepting, while we're just dumbed down learning slang and formal English. So did I answer your question sufficiently? I think maybe.
Yeah, no, that was great. And what I wanted to add to that is I think I could see that coming. What I see coming, and and if I look back through history, it's like how they say history repeats itself. To me, it's kind of more like it rhymes. And that's also a thing, if people display the same behavior, they're going to get the same results. That's what I keep trying to tell people. That's why history repeats itself. But what I see is a lot of times it's people that are relying on the government, that are running toward the government, that need their assistance. So I would say to people when they're worried about things like this happening, if they don't want to take the vaccine and wear the mask and stuff, is start to become a little more self-sufficient. Maybe start a little garden, get some chickens. There are all these things that we can do, because I also see hard times, financial hard times coming ahead. And to me, it's not really that big of a deal because in the past, maybe few years, maybe it's just synchronistically, but I've kind of been adjusting my life to that already. I mean, I sleep on the floor. It's just like more comfortable for my back. I stopped cutting my hair, basically. I stopped eating meat and stuff. I mean, I'm not a vegan, but I just, I'm starting to adjust anyway. And I think that maybe it's just an intuitional thing for me. I see it coming because I am such a fan of history and I know how things can turn on a dime. That's kind of where I don't want to really get in despair because I see these they, them, whoever they are on top of us. I don't really know exactly what their plans are, but I know that they want me in despair and they want me not to be happy. So that's kind of why I use comedy and I try to talk about solutions. And that's why I like your book too, because as long as there still is a legal, quote unquote, legal system standing and there are courts, you can use this stuff because technically, like I said, you are a man or a woman. You are not a person like they say. It's not this maritime stuff. We're actually on solid land. They kind of robbed us from our whole notion and indoctrinated us into this system that we're under control of this law of the sea. When we're really, like you said, we're only really bound by common law. It's what is in our area, like what we don't want to transgress against our neighbor. It's basically, like you said, natural law. It all comes to the higher power. So I just wanted to add that to what you said. I thought that was really great. And another thing I wanted to talk about is, so say if somebody does get pulled over, what would you like, and you kind of ran through that scenario. What have you been doing? And like, what would you, I know you're not really supposed to like suggest or give people advice, but I don't know, take me through like a hypothetical situation, or do you have a story you could tell us about?
I'll take you through a true situation.
All right, even better.
About a year ago here, right now I'm in Palm Bay, Florida, which is on the East Coast, about 20 miles south of Cocoa Beach. And I was driving down Palm Bay Road from I-95 headed east, driving home, and I was speeding. I was driving over the speed limit. And a cop car pulled behind me, threw on his lights about 2 miles from my house and wanted me to pull over. And I wouldn't pull over. I just put my hand out the window and I waved for him to just follow me. So I drove all the way home and pulled into my driveway, and I turned off my car, pulled the keys out, and started getting out of my car. Cop comes running around the corner with his gun drawn, right at me, gun in my face. He grabs me by the arm, takes my keys, yanks me out of the car, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He goes, "You're speeding." I go, "I'm not even driving." He goes, "You're driving. You're not driving this speed." I go, "No, I'm not operating it. I'm not driving it." He's like, "Well, I want your license." I go, "I'm not driving or operating a vehicle for hire." And this is with a gun in my face. "I'm not driving or operating a vehicle for hire, so I don't have, want, or need a license." He's like, "Oh, what are you, a sovereign citizen?" And I said, "No, I'm a living," right? Because sovereign citizen, a sovereign cannot be a citizen, and a citizen can't be sovereign. It's an oxymoron. They made up that term because they're trying to mess with people. They're doing whatever they can to protect their fraternity and make money. So I said, "No, I'm a living soul." And he says, "Well, I just want your name." And I go, "Well, it's my name and it belongs to me. And if you want it, it's $5,000. And he holstered his gun and he goes, "I'm through with you." And he threw my keys back in the car and he got in his truck and pulled away.
Wow.
So I conditionally accepted his offer for my name for a cash up front, which, he doesn't want to pull out his wallet and give me money. He knows I'm still in honor. I think they are trained on offer and acceptance because when I was living in Los Angeles, I was over at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and there was a premiere for a movie across the street at the Roosevelt Hotel where Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, actually. And so I knew the producer who was premiering that movie there. And I went across the street to pitch a movie. I was asking him for like $25 million to produce a movie. And while I was there at this wrap party for a movie, I had just watched this producer's movie at Grauman's Chinese Theater. I walked across the street. I was hanging out. I was waiting to go meet the producer. I was talking to an actor, this tall, older black man at the bar, hanging out. And he was a bailiff on a TV show. and he told me he was retired L.A. sheriff's deputy for 25 years. I said, really? I said, let me ask you something just to clarify. I just want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong here. Are you guys trained on offer acceptance, conditional acceptance? If I stay in honor, as long as I stay in honor, you shouldn't be able to arrest me. If I'm not a driver or an operator, I don't need a driver license. And I threw all this information at him, and he said, you're absolutely right. They just don't want you to know that. We're trained in that. And it's a secret because they're joining a fraternity when they become a police officer. So their number one job, and what they're doing is actually criminal activity. It's a racket. It's racketeering. It's a perfected racket. They're actually out there posing as a fake identity. Officer Johnson is not a real identity that's registered with the Secretary of State of the state that he's living in. So when he writes a citation, he's writing a one-sided, unconscionable, invalid, unenforceable contract under a fake ID. And when he shows up in court, he's not showing up as a registered ID. I went into court and I started asking the cop the questions to fight a ticket, and the judge, which isn't even really a judge, they're just administrators dressed up to look like judges, told the cop not to answer any of my questions because I was going to put him into dishonor. I was going to put them both into dishonor. I made a judge flee the courtroom one time because I made a wish in court. When you make a wish in court, that's a command to that so-called judge. That judge fled the courtroom, ordered me to have a psych eval and a public defender, and then left the courtroom. And then I was pulled back into my cell because I wouldn't. When I was at the Richmond, I was at the Augusta Mall handing out DVDs of my video that's on Amazon called True Stories, A Lifetime of Alien Abductions. So I was just doing my own promoting. And the cops showed up and they're like, hey, you can't do that. You got to leave. And then they wanted my name and I wouldn't give them my name. So they held me for 5 days. Then I was dragged in front of a judge. I made wishes about let me go. And the judge fled the courtroom because I said, I do not understand any of the charges, meaning I'm not going to stand under and take any responsibility for these. Who are you? What's your name? And then the judge fled the courtroom. So you got to really understand basically that if you're going to start employing legal or lawful or honor, dishonor tactics, you got to constantly work these situations in your head and be prepared to receive offers and then how you're going to conditionally accept them. And you got to not be afraid. Over the years, my adrenaline level has decreased as the time has gone by with my interaction with the police. When I was younger, if I got pulled over by the cops, there's a fear response. Now I'm really calm and I take my time with what I say. And when they come up to my window and they start asking me questions, I retake control of the conversation by asking them questions because you're kind of in court there with the cop. Whoever's asking questions is in control of the court. So when they ask you a question, you can respond with a question like, do you know how fast you were driving? Oh, well, who wants to know? Oh, well, I'm Officer Johnson. Oh, well, Officer Johnson, is that title name registered with the Secretary of State of Florida? Well, what are you, a lawyer? Yeah, actually, I am a lawyer. I practice natural law. Well, okay, have a good day, sir. There's so many different ways that the encounter can go. You got to kind of practice all the different scenarios. And, I think about this a lot. And it's like if I wanted to be a professional baseball player, I would eat, sleep, and think baseball. I tell that to my nephews, so I train in baseball. Well, if you want to be a sovereign, if you want to be a free living soul, you got to eat, drink, sleep, sovereignty, and offer an acceptance and honor and understanding your relationship to these corporations that are posing as government.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I found. This is actually all kind of new to me, but it does make a lot of sense. And I could see where it kind of reminds me of the scenes in Star Wars where like, these are not the droids you're looking for. If you could maintain your composure, and I think it might not work all the time, but Also, I've heard of situations in court where it went well and the judge was actually trying to help the person with this stuff. Like the judge was excited. They're like, wow, somebody actually cares about the law. So I think that from what I've heard, a lot of times if you direct your attack or whatever it is against the state and not the judge itself, but against the prosecutor or whatever, sometimes they'll even laugh about it and they'll help you a little bit. So, but it is a system, I mean, obviously set up to control us, but I think that's what it really comes down to. It's mindset, it's state of mind. And another thing that I heard too was that you could tell these police officers and these judges, you basically are warning them somehow. And you're like, it's my duty to let you know that you're liable because you're basically infringing on my rights or whatever you're doing. And I have, after that, you'll open yourself up so I could take recourse to go against you because they're going against their code of conduct and they're liable because I guess they have some kind of insurance, liability insurance or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is this making sense?
Well, they have to be insurable. And they also have to be licensed. So if they violate your human rights and you lien them, then if they have a lien on them, if I file a lien against a cop because he has totally violated me and not followed the offer acceptance and just, done wrong, and I file a claim against him with the county recorder, that goes as a lien against him. Until he satisfies that lien, he's not going to be able to renew his driver's license or driver license. So if he can't have a driver license renewed, then he's not going to be able to continue being a police officer. So it's contractual and it's financial. And what you have to understand, and a lot of the people don't understand, is that a judge is just an administrator dressed up to look like a judge. More powerful than a judge is a notary. And your power is in filing paperwork with the county recorder. If you file a document and you dock that document in the vessel of the county by recording it with the county recorder, if it goes on record for 30 days unrebutted, it becomes law. So with my process, with my book, I teach you to create the security agreement between you, the living soul, and your corporate entity. And you take it to a notary and you notarize it. Once you notarize a document, it is birthed into commerce. That document becomes a living, breathing document. Then you take this notarized document and you record it with the county recorder. It goes, they make copy, you send them the original notarized, signed document. It goes on the record, it becomes law. Now, once you have the security agreement and the power of attorney general over your living soul, and it's been on the record now for 30 days, you are literally untouchable as far as a sovereign in commerce, with nobody able to file any kind of a claim against you or your assets. So I put the documents in my book. There's a series of steps. First, you create your security agreement. Then you create the power of attorney general over that security agreement, and your security agreement has a number. Then you file your UCC1, which, you go online to Maryland and you upload you create your UCC1 that has all of your assets under your control. And one of those assets is your human vessel. So once you file that on record also, that your vessel is on your UCC1 and that you've got the superior claim over it, nobody can touch you. Nobody can haul your vessel away against your will. So there's a process to it, but honestly, there's a learning curve, and it's taken me years to unlearn everything I've been indoctrinated into, rewire my brain to speak legal English and understand my relationship to the government, the state, myself, my parents, the creator, money, the monetary system, fiat, Federal Reserve notes, everything. Everything we are being trained by the mass media and the Department of Education is teaching us things the wrong way and backward, and is literally making us slaves. And that's why I do not trust Donald Trump, because in his speeches, he calls us citizens. And I know citizen, person, individual, resident, domiciled, and taxpayer. Those are slave terms. And he's up there giving these speeches calling us the citizens of the United States. And that is just saying that we're slaves under his regime, and we're going to have to do whatever they tell us because we're taking the benefits and privileges of the stimulus check, Social Security, social distancing, FEMA, all these different things that we are accepting as a benefit and privilege of being a citizen under the Articles of Incorporation of the United States of America Corporation, which those Articles of Incorporation are better known as the Constitution. So there's so much to it, but I've really tried to simplify it so that when you pick up the book or when I give an interview, I can start rewiring people to understand what the real truth is.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's important for people to know that if you're listening to this and you're getting excited, it is really a stepwise process. I would suggest maybe, any time that you take a little bit of knowledge, it could actually be dangerous, because if you don't really know yourself and you're not really aware of your path, you can maybe want to use this for ill-gotten gains, because there are ways that you can use this maybe for quote unquote nefarious reasons. So I think that it's really important that somebody, gets, like I said, to know themselves and to really get a good grasp of natural law. And also what I wanted to add was a lot of people will, it's stuff like this, I think, is really, it's more common than you would think, but it's really hidden because people that practice this stuff, they don't really brag about it. And I feel that it's because the United States government is a criminal organization. So they've set up this bureaucracy that controls us as, slaves. And then within that system, there are ways to get through and we can use it. But I feel that if a person was to go, a little too crazy and to get a little bit too much fame, they are still a criminal organization and they might squash you. But I think that isn't really much of a concern as long as you're just doing stuff. And you kind of approach it for, like, if somebody comes after you, then it's just a defense. I think all these tactics really shouldn't be used in an offensive manner. And obviously you're not saying that, but I'm just saying this is kind of where people need to have their headspace at when they're using stuff like this. Because if you do get in a situation with a police officer, he's been in that situation 1,000 times. If you haven't and you don't know yourself really well, you're going to give in or something's going to happen. But if you do know yourself well and you're standing there and you have a calm demeanor, there's vibrations that we're putting off. It's just like with animals. When you go up to a dog, if you're freaked out, he's going to freak out. If you're relaxed, you can kind of absorb his energy. And then when you're speaking slowly and calmly, if you're making sense to him, for him, a lot of times it's just like, what, I'll just go get the next guy. It's a lot easier, especially once you start talking about things. And now in the climate that we find ourselves with, like, defund the police and all this stuff, I think they're even a little more worried to, get on some kind of viral video or whatever. So I feel that, yeah, go ahead.
One of the lines that I've kind of memorized or created for myself is that if I have an encounter with a cop, I would just say that, oh, you know what, officer, I'm totally prepared to stay in honor with you by conditionally accepting all of your offers for my fee schedule. And the officer's like, oh, your fee schedule, right? Yeah. If you want me to get out of the car and walk a straight line, I'll be happy to perform that for you for $500 cash up front. And if you want to search my car, feel free to search my car for $2,000 cash up front. And if you want my name on it, yeah, definitely. I want to conditionally accept all of your offers so I can stay in honor, and I conditionally accept them for my fee schedule. I have a fee schedule on my security agreement here that's registered with the county recorder officer. It's law. I filed it over a year ago, and I'm a secure creditor. And here's this is on the file with the county recorder. So this is law, and this is my fee schedule. So if you want me to do any of these things, I'd be glad to do them for you. I conditionally accept all of your offers. So if you can understand that all your power is in conditional acceptance and conditionally accepting for a fee schedule. That's going to put you into a position of power. Now, if you get dragged into the so-called courtroom against your will, then you do have a couple of other alternatives. Because here's a precept. If you go to Black's Law Dictionary, I think in the 7th or 8th edition, in the back, after the definitions, it said one of their mottos is that make an example of one to teach the masses or teach the many. So they might shoot you in the freaking head just to make an example out of you so that the masses won't go and start doing something. That's one of their rules of law. But if you do get dragged into a courtroom, you look at let me give you two other ways to handle this. It might come down to, all right, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? Well, plead or plea is really plea bargaining. And they want to know how much you're going to pay. And they just want you to say guilty or non-guilty, which comes from the word gilded, which I believe means to cut off your own head. What you can do is say, well, I plead $1. That's my offer. I plead $1. So now they have, no, you can't do that. Oh, really? Judge, are you practicing law from behind the bench? I plead $1. That's and if you don't want to accept my $1, then I'll plead 50 cents. Now that's one way to handle it. Now there's also these 4 things that you can say in court when the judge, Your Honor, may I speak, please? All right, fine, speak. All right. First of all, I do not consent to these proceedings. Number 2, your offer is not accepted. Or you might be able to say your offer is accepted for $500,000. So think about that. But you can say your offer is not accepted. But I don't like to not accept an offer because that puts me into dishonor. And, I don't mind going into dishonor with somebody who I don't want to ever see again. Like if some criminal I see is walking down the street and he's looking at me and I can see him coming toward me and he's trying to make eye contact with me, I'm going to cross the street, avoid eye contact, and go that way because I don't want to get mugged. So I've dishonored his gaze, his approach, and I'm that way. I'm gone. Now, so number 1, so getting back to what you can say in court. Number 1, I do not consent to these proceedings. Number 2, your offer is not accepted. Number 3, I do not consent to being surety for these proceedings. And which means I don't consent to being the vessel that is the surety for this fictitious entity that you're trying to press a claim against. And number 4, I demand that the bond be immediately brought forward so I can see who will indemnify me if I am damaged. So you want somebody to take responsibility for this, what they're pressing against you. And odds are that the judge is going to just dismiss the case. So your audience, I want you guys to memorize those 4 statements. That's for you guys.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Now, the part about the bond, what exactly is that about? Is there some kind of insurance or some kind of backing that they have to show you? Or that they don't have?
Well, they're creating when you get dragged into court, there's a bond or a ticket or a contract or it's a citation. It's a contract. It's a bond that's created. And so you want to see this contract that they've allegedly created you want to see who the 2 parties are on the contract, because it takes 2 parties to agree to a contract. And if you don't consent to this contract and you don't know who the other party is who's making the claim against you, or no party is willing to stand up and say, right, if you're damaged in any way, if this cost you, I'm going to, pay for the damages. I'm the other person on the contract in case this is a bad contract who's going to indemnify or make you whole or remedy the situation. So what they're trying to do is just siphon off funds and make you agree to plead guilty or not guilty, and then they're going to put an amount down into the record on how much you're going to pay. The judge is just going to make up an arbitrary amount. You know, he's trying to make $200, $300, $400, $500, $1,000 per person that stands up. You ever make an appearance in court in the morning, you see like 20 people sitting in there waiting to appear, or maybe 10 that morning, because the judge is going to call you up, guilty or not guilty. All right, your fine is $350. Boom, boom. They just made $350 off that one vessel. All right, next. Boom, $500. Boom, $150. Boom. All right, lady, I'll let you go this time. Don't do it again. Boom. You know, so they're just trying to get money to run their whole operation, to pay into the judge's pension. So when you ask for a bond to be brought forward, you're asking for a contract to be brought forward that you signed, where there's another party with you, two halves, two sides to the party in this contract. Who's it being written for? And I didn't sign a contract. I didn't agree to these proceedings. I don't consent to any of this. I never said I was going to come here and be even part of this contract. You guys they're making up contracts. So you want to see that bond. You want to see that contract and who the parties are that are going to, who's the party that's going to make me whole or take responsibility for me if I'm damaged here. And, you know, if the money is taken out of my account, or if I'm forced to write a check, or if I'm held in jail, who's going to remedy my situation and indemnify me? So that's what I mean by that.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just wanted to clear it up a little bit, because it's crazy once you get into the, I guess you could say, the weeds of all this, because it really is. And it brings me to my final point. And what I kind of wanted to talk about was that it does seem that all this is just really a system of consent, you know. And if you look at the way the people in this country are raised, you know, we're thrown into this indoctrinational schooling and everything. We have all this indoctrination and all this terrible system of control or whatever. But it does seem that it really does rely on consent. And if you don't consent to this system, you'll really have, like, you can have a step up above them, really, because honestly, like I said earlier, they're a criminal organization and they're masquerading. So their thing is they can't really let too many people figure it out, you know? So it really does come down to just knowing who you are, knowing that you are a man or woman and that you're not one of their underlings or one of their subjects, that you are free and you can do what you want. And you have to remember that. And it comes from fear, really, you know, like it comes from knowing yourself. So as far as consent, I mean, have you seen any of this stuff fail really bad for anybody that kind of tried to say, and again, it's not really about saying no, it's just about turning their offer around. So have you seen this maybe go bad for somebody that was
I've had it gone bad for me. You know, I decided a long time ago that I'm going to be practicing this. I got to practice what I preach. So I live these techniques. I practice these techniques, and I've gone and I've had confrontations with the police, and it's failed. I've gone to jail. I've been held in jail. I've had to pay fines. I've been dragged into court in chains, and but I'm still doing what practiced it to get there. So sometimes I didn't say things the right way, or sometimes, you know, this has been a learning process for me over the years, and for the past. Ever since I quit the Department of Defense back in 2006, because they're wicked, evil, self-licking ice cream cone, perpetrating wars across Earth and stealing our finances through taxation, I quit. I've been going through this whole learning process, and I started learning it before that, but I've gone to jail, but I've also not gone to jail. I've had a gun in my face, and I've said the right things, and you know, to go from a gun in your face, about to be freaking arrested and hauled off, to an officer just holstering his gun and having to walk away because I said the right things. It's gone good, and it's gone to where I'm on my knees, I'm handcuffed, I put it in the back of a car, and I'm taken to jail and held in a cold cell naked for 5 days, where they won't let me talk to anybody until I let them take my picture. So it fails. And it succeeds. I've had both. And I've seen people in jail. Most of the people in jail don't know this stuff. And then you have some of these people who do know this stuff, but they're still in there because they might not know it the right way. So one of the things I've really taken to heart and use as my real tool right up front is conditional acceptance. You know, when you say don't consent, that's almost like going into dishonor in a way. But you can not consent by conditionally accepting. So the most power you have in life is conditional acceptance. Even if someone's offering you a job, hey man, can you come mow my lawn next week at 2 o'clock on Saturday? I'll give you $50. And you can say, well, I'll tell you what, I can't do it on Saturday, but I could do it Sunday morning, and it's going to take like 3 hours. And my time is worth $20 an hour. So how about $60 on Sunday at 10 a.m.? Okay, deal. You conditionally accepted his original offer. You counter-offered. Counter-offering is conditionally accepting. And now that relationship is still intact. Or let's say, it goes anywhere. You can keep a relationship intact by conditionally accepting. If somebody wants to borrow money from you, can I borrow $50? All right. I'll tell you what, you can borrow $50, but you got to pay me back $60, and you got to do so by Wednesday. And that's the deal. All right, fine. Because if you say, no, you can't borrow any money, then your friend is like, man, what a jerk. I'm your friend. You could at least lend me $50, and that fractures the relationship. Or in marriage, when the preacher is saying, will you honor your spouse or you honor your mate? What does that mean? You're going to conditionally accept your mate's offers. Hey, honey, will you take out the garbage? No, I'm not taking out the garbage. You take out the garbage. Oh, well, now you've dishonored your spouse, fractured the relationship there, and you're not in honor. But you could say, yeah, honey, I'll take out the garbage as soon as the baseball game is over. Okay, that's great. Now you conditionally accept that you take out the garbage, and you're still in honor, and there's no argument. So it works everywhere in life, relationships, jobs, and these so-called police officers.
It's amazing you said that, because it's kind of like, it's like, wow, what a great way for humanity to live. Just give each other conditional offers back to the original offers. It reminds me a lot of living in accordance with natural law. It also reminds me a lot of poker. It really reminds me of that, because when you have a hand in poker and it's the betting round, you can either check or you can bet. And when you bet, you're basically making an offer to the next guy, and that guy can accept it, or he can raise, which is a counter offer saying, no, if you really have it. And then this is where you really have to prove that you have the hand, because if somebody doesn't fold and they play it out to the end, you got to show the goods. And it's the same thing, I think, with dealing with the police or any of these authority figures. And I also wanted to add that it does sound like it's a great way to live. And you know how people always say that humanity, kind of like, it was like we were ruled by kings, and then we had the Magna Carta, and we ruled this out, and like there was these writers. Well, what if it was the other way around? What if we just naturally knew how to live? That's what it seems like. It seems like people already live this way. It's just that when there's a threat to them from the government, then they're like, all right, we put on a mask and we yell at people. But if there wasn't this threat or whatever, I feel that's how people would kind of live anyway. And it seems that maybe through all the indoctrination, they've taken us away from that, but that's kind of go ahead.
We are all kings and queens. You've heard all men are created equal. We are all living souls here, fractalized from the Aurora Borealis energy system, where we are manifesting this apparently physical body through our senses. And no living soul is better than any living soul. You got the 13 bloodlines that supposedly run the earth, and they're just a bunch of other living souls who are using inbreeding, I think.
Oh, you lost your audio.
Sorry.
No problem.
We are all kings and queens of this earth domain. There is nobody better than anybody else. Now, these royal elites are trying to make people believe it, and they put on a dog and pony show, and they use the mass media to try and get everybody to believe that, oh well, the Queen of England rules all and the bloodline and they're superior and we're just the commoners. All of that is garbage. None of it is true. We are all living souls operating under the highest law, which is natural law, which is how we should all be operating. And they're using this monarchy, these statutes, codes, laws to try and exercise so-called authority over us. And you only have authority over you if you consent to it. If you consent to it, just like we talked about before, by accepting a benefit and a privilege of a corporation posing as a government, by taking their stimulus check, by taking their Social Security, by having a driver license, by calling yourself a citizen, living in a domicile, then you are under their authority. But you can also work both sides of the fence, because I believe we are at war with these maniacs, and all is fair in love and war. I believe that too. So if you want to accept the stimulus check and get your money because we're being freaking thrown into poverty, but you still want to call yourself a sovereign, I think that's fair, because one contract has nothing to do with another contract. So let's say I receive a stimulus check, and then they try and give me a vaccine, and they say, well, you're a citizen. Did you receive the stimulus check? I would lie and say, no, I didn't, and I'm not a citizen. And you want to try and prove that in court? Because there's also this little fact that nothing is going to try and be proven in court. So they would have to try and prove I'm a citizen and prove I received a stimulus check. And this contract over here with the vaccine has nothing to do with this other contract over here where I received my stimulus check. So I recommend we play both sides of the fence, take what we can from them, lie to them when we need to, because we're at war with them, because they've been lying to us our entire lives. So we got to be smart, do whatever we can to win. And if lying and deceit is part of our ammunition, then let's use it 100%.
Yeah, I feel that you're right with the love and war thing. And we really are, we're really choosing and creating our own adventure. And you got to do, everyone has their own path. You know, you have to do what you have to do to get by. And I'm not going to judge anybody. We all have our own paths. So, but it really is,
you know, this whole world is just an adventure, honestly. Like life, this is just a wild, crazy adventure. I mean, you got to admit, this is not boring times that we're living in. And it's just getting more like wild. It's kind of like they're trying to keep us from becoming bored, which, you know, in a way, I think they have the esoteric knowledge to know that, yeah, we are just living souls here, having this little finite amount of time to experience this, and then we're going to get reincarnated. There's a movie with Michael Douglas where he discovers and proves that reincarnation is real and it's true. And in that movie, then everyone starts committing suicide because they're like, I'm not happy with this life. And then they get reborn, and then they live another life, because everyone knows that if you don't like this one, just start over, like a video game. So it could be like that. I don't know. I mean, I would never commit suicide, but the point I'm trying to make is that we are living in some kind of a vacation, some kind of a automated, electromagnetic, apparently physical realm, and there's a bunch of other souls here who have decided that they're going to use dark energy, wicked power, oppression, lies, deceit, war, and all different ways so that they can have all the power and resources and keep it from us. And they keep all of the information under the guise of national security, and then they just throw us old technology and force us to live under fiat currency and gasoline and fossil fuels and paying for this and that, when really we have abundant freedom here and it's just being kept from us.
Yeah, we really do. If you just look around us, we have this abundant freedom, but we just get wrapped up. And that's, I think, the problem is the attention. And that's really esoterically, I think they know that if they hold our attention, that's the most important thing. If you can have somebody's attention, you have their time, you have everything. So if they create this elaborate show, and I've even heard some people they have this belief, or maybe there's just like an empathy exercise where they think some of these elites are actually trying to wake people up with some of these deeds that they do. And maybe a lot of them aren't even what we're told. It's a really interesting mind experiment, but it's kind of like, if you woke somebody up, or when you try, you talked about cognitive dissonance. I was watching something, you're talking about that. And sometimes when you try to wake somebody up before it's too soon, it's like the Matrix where Neo, he throws up at some people, they just can't handle it. They have to come to their information on their own. So the whole premise is like, they're just out there doing these crazy things, trying to wake people up. And it's, when you see things in the media, like some of these funny names they make up, like Waynell Sexton was George Floyd's second grade teacher. It's like this lady they interviewed. She was supposed to be Dr. Waynell Sexton, who still had his homework from 38 years ago, And to me, that's where I also try to bring it back to humor and laugh about it, because that's another way to be free. Because if they really want your attention and they want you to be, to have no hope, then just laugh at them, because it really is hilarious. But I don't know. What do you think about that idea? And then I guess we could wrap this thing up. But you think there might be an element out there of people actually trying to wake us up? Like maybe Tom Hanks isn't a pedophile. He just is an actor trying to screw with us. Or maybe they just have to make the show that elaborate for people to pay attention. And I'm not trying to say there's not like evil, satanic people or pedophiles out there.
I think there is a hardcore pedophile ring across Earth. I think also that the mass media, they have some kind of a rule that says that they have to kind of tell us the truth and hide it in plain sight for us to see, so that they have plausible deniability. And they can say, well, we showed you right here. It says it right here. You just weren't bright enough to read between the lines. Like, if you look at the June 19th, 2020 Tulsa, Oklahoma rally speech by Donald Trump, he literally says that the United States is going to be destroyed. He says that we are hiring MS-13 members to go out and beat people in the streets and cause all this violence. He says, you can't drink the water, and he throws it down. He even points to a congressman and he's like, or a congresswoman, he's like, oh, and this woman, blah, blah, blah. And he pulls away from the mic and he's like, I effed her. He even says it. I mean, I've looked at that speech. So, and he uses hand signs. He opens up the sign where he's like, he swears, he gives the 666. He holds up his hand and then gives the 666 sign as he opens the speech, like swearing an oath to Satan. What's Satan? What is this earth we're living in? I think that they know they won't tell us. They know it. They're not going to tell us. We have to figure it out for ourselves. They hide the truth in plain sight. They tell us things without telling us for us to figure out. I mean, if they just gave it all to us, I think it'd be too easy. They want to see who's going to be responsible. You got some people like in the media, they cover up their eye like that. I don't know. Does that represent one vision of the, or does it represent the pineal gland vision? There's a lot of different theories. There's so many signs and symbols out there. And I mean, is Tom Hanks a pedophile? I've been studying nutrition and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And like you said, you don't eat meat. Why don't you eat meat? Why? Because, do you want to consume dead cooked animal? If you are what you eat and you're consuming the DNA of another animal, you're going to turn your DNA into that of some hybrid animal, pig, cow, chicken, bird, whatever. No. And I think that that's what's going on also with this adrenochrome drinking, is that the elites or these people or whatever, they are consuming human DNA in the thought that that's what they need to consume to stay more human. So I think what I believe in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and what Thoth says about abstaining completely from eating anything, and that you can become a light being, you can even drop your body if you want at will and live everlasting life. So there's a lot of different theories that go that, can I prove all of that? I'm working myself as an experiment where I eat very little. I do a lot of intermittent fasting, and I try to only eat once a day or once every other day. And I want to start getting to where I eat once every 3 days, once every 5 days. And I'd love to be off of food and prove that I can live and stop my aging by not consuming anything. So these people might be vampires, basically. You know, you got the zombie movies talking about flesh-eating zombies, which I think that's what they're making fun of us, and we are the flesh-eating zombies. Those who are walking around morbidly obese, fat, dumb, and happy, eating dead cooked animal.
And they always portray the zombies, not to
stories.
interrupt you, but they always portray the zombies as wanting to eat brains. So it's like the smart people, you know, they want to get to in society.
Yeah,
Right
you got to
there.
blow their head off
Yeah.
to kill them. And then there's vampirism, you know, these people who stay up all night. They can't go out in the sun because that ages you. Drinking blood, I think, and not eating any food. You drink they drink blood. They keep their form. They stay away from the sun, the aging sun. They stay away from food because that whole food pyramid, I think, has been thrown at us for years to just make us sick and die. Think about what I said earlier about the International Monetary Fund holding our birth certificate. It matures on your 18th birthday. And then from 18 to 65, it's a full bond where they don't have to pay any Social Security. So if you're dead sometime between 18 and 65, they don't have to pay Social Security. So they want you eating 3 meals a day, maybe 4 or 5. They want you exercising so you increase your heart rate. So you're eating, you're increasing your heart rate, you're speeding up your metabolism, you're getting quicker to that final heartbeat so that they don't have to pay Social Security on this mature bond that matured on your 18th birthday. They just want to get all the money they can out of you during your working years or all the credit out of you. They want to have your bond for when you die, and hopefully they can kill you before your 65th birthday. You know, that's one of their financial goals. So the whole food industry, everything is designed to just make you age and die, when I believe that we don't have to die. We're living, if I'm a living soul, then I shouldn't have to die. If my subconscious mind is programming everything that my living soul is experiencing and seeing, then I shouldn't have to die. I should be able to program my living soul and my subconscious mind to believe exactly what I want, to manifest it the way I want, to understand all the things that I need to understand, to hook into so that I can live forever. So I believe that the subconscious mind, if we can control it, and we don't, because our subconscious mind is being programmed continuously all the time by outside forces from the mass media. But if you can control your subconscious mind and be the one programming it, then I think you can do whatever you want. You know, hypnotism. Everything is hypnotism. Hypnosis is when an idea or a command goes beyond the reasoning conscious mind barrier that protects the subconscious mind. It's either it bypasses it or goes through it, implants into the subconscious mind, and once it's in the subconscious mind as a true command and belief, then it physically manifests out into reality, because our observation causes electrons to take shape and form. Just like what they proved at CERN and with the double slit experiment, when an electron is observed, it takes shape and form. And it takes the shape and form of what our subconscious mind observes it to be. And so CERN even came out and said that the European Center for Nuclear Research, where they have the super collider, they got the top 7,000 scientists working at CERN over in Geneva, Switzerland, with this 27-mile track that smashes protons together. They said that particle physics is a misnomer. We named it wrong. It's not particle physics anymore. It's field physics, because there are no particles. It's all just fields of energy having an apparently physical appearance, because the electrons take shape and form, apparent shape and form, based on our consciousness. So our consciousness is making all of this take shape and form, and none of it is actually real or solid.
Mind-blowing stuff. I love everything that you said. That's great. I really don't know what to say other than I agree with a lot of that stuff. And, I think it really, like I said, pretty much throughout the show, and everything that I always say is that you have to get to know yourself, because when you're in these situations, or not even in the situations, but as far as talking about just getting your life right and knowing what to do, once you really know yourself, you can start to listen to your intuition. I believe everybody has their own separate path to get there. That's kind of why we're put here too. That's a lot of that. What I believe is kind of like a dojo Earth. I've heard it referred to before by this guy, James True. It's really funny. But anyway, so I really love that. It's a great conversation. So Ronald Russell Farnham, where can people find you and where can they get your book?
You can go to my, you can find me and follow me on my YouTube channel, The Ronald Show 2011, The Ronald Show 2011 on YouTube. Subscribe and like my videos there. And you can get my book on Amazon. It's called The Solution, an Instruction Manual for Freedom and Sovereignty. And you can get the Kindle version or the paperback, and in those are the documentation. So if you do get my book, you can always email me at theronaldshow2011@gmail.com, and I will specifically and literally email any of your fans or people who buy the book. I'll email them the documents so they don't have to type them out from the book, because I mean, I want people to type them out so they can, you know, understand what they're doing and see every.
I lost your audio. Yeah.
Email me, send you the documents. So that's where I am. And I'm also on Facebook. Find me on Facebook, Ronald Russell Farnham, and then follow me on YouTube. And I make videos probably once a week, you know, dealing with how to handle this whole situation that we're in. In fact, I just had a video taken down by YouTube because I was telling people not to wear a mask. So I'm going to have to change it a little bit. I do it in a different way.
Sounds about right. Or maybe you should. I list my videos at BitChute also because they really don't care. So
I'm going to start getting on the BitChute. I got to look at all the different platforms. You know, right now I've been using YouTube because that's where my largest audience is. And I also use Facebook because I got like 2 accounts with 5,000 friends. So, you know, and I love doing interviews. I appreciate doing the interviews. It's guys like you, hosts like you, who are helping people to wake up by spreading the message to the masses all at once. I mean, I could be sitting here just having a conversation with you, me and you, one-on-one, but that's not going to have as much power and effect as if your listeners are also listening and then taking action and then sending your video out to other people to listen to this interview. And so it can spread and spread, because if we can have a mass awakening, which I think we are having some type of a mass awakening, then we can go into that 1,000 years of peace. We can get through this Armageddon. We can come out the other side of this as a human race working together. Instead, they're trying to kill 6.5 billion people according to the Georgia Guidestones. So,
yeah, no, I hear you. I think that's what it is. Really comes down to. And shows like this are great because they raise other questions for people than to go look. And I always suggest that people go and do their own research and look into stuff for yourself. Don't take our word for it. You know, I mean, obviously it's a research. You did your work. You can learn off of that. But yes, do this. Look into it because there's a lot of knowledge about that. And if you want to check out my website, it's morelawsmoreproblems.com. And thank you so much, Ronald. I had such a great time, and hopefully we could talk again sometime soon.
Thanks, Brandon. I'd love to be back on anytime.
All right. Take care.
All right, bro.